Fellas, it's that wonderful time yet again. We are talking about Wonhobby and Wonfest this week. This is going to be a two-part series, like I like to do, with Wonhobby being today's video and Wonfest being the next. There's also the Ami Hobby Camp mixed into all that, but it's kind of confusing to pick apart which figure was announced where. So don't worry about that. We'll talk about that more in the next video. Today we're focusing on the gallery of Wonhobby 37, which is primarily Good Small Company and the manufacturers that fall under their umbrella. There's about 200 or so figures in this gallery alone, but I'm also going to be taking a couple of figures at Wonfest and plopping them in this video just to round things out a little bit. Think Freeing, for example. I don't know why they're never featured in this gallery, but I'd like to talk about them at the same time, so look forward to that. But yeah, I think we should just begin. Alright, so this time around we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. In the interest of saving time and being a bit more organized, I'm going to be talking about these figures by category. So for instance, let's talk about all the scale figures first. And then after that, maybe the Figma, maybe the pop-up parades, not sure yet, but we'll find out soon. I just feel like this will make the video flow a little bit more naturally, but I'm very curious to see how this video performs with this style. So I'm going to keep my eye out on, I guess, viewer retention and whatnot. But yeah, let's start off with the new Hatsune Miku figure, the Happy 16th Birthday version. We saw this one a couple of months back. It was unpainted at the time, and now we get the full picture. And I think it's gorgeous. She is very pretty. Now, I was questioning if they were going to paint in the wings, which wasn't like the original illustration. The piano keys, the guitar, the music notes and sheets, all that stuff, right? But they were very faithful. They didn't want to do that. And I do think it looks great. You could still discern everything, right? You know what you're looking at when you look at this figure. But I do feel kind of bad for people who live in a room that's like white or off-white, because you're just not really going to get to appreciate this figure really, because it really will blend in with certain backgrounds. I think having this really dark blue, just like the original illustration, is the perfect way to display this piece. Now, I'm not going to go hunting for a lot of these figures at the event, but I did see this earlier, and I do feel like this paints a better picture in how pretty she is, right? The outfit is pretty similar to what she typically wears, though a bit more frilly. There's a bit of a design change around her collar, around her waist, right? It doesn't deviate too far from the original look, but it makes her feel a little bit more formal to me, which I do appreciate. Now, I also love the pattern that you can find on her boots and sleeves. Just that starry design is very pretty, but above all else, I think my favorite part about this figure has got to be the pose, and especially her face. Just the way she's kind of like facing towards the sky is really interesting to me, and it makes this figure feel a little bit more artistic. Like most anime figures want you to look at them face to face. That's how they're typically designed. But this one's not. This one has a different goal in mind, and it just makes her stand out a little bit more to me, and it makes her feel a little bit more special as a result. I think this is very pretty. This does look unpainted, the wings. I can't get that out of my mind, but that's just the way it's supposed to be. So you get over that hurdle, I think you're in for a treat. Really curious how much this one's going to cost, and I'm very sure there's going to be an extra support stand in the back here. There has to be. Maybe one, maybe two, but there's just way too much going on in the back that they can't ignore that, I feel. Racing Miku 2023 version. This is essentially the Ryza Miku. It looks just like Ryza because it's designed by the same artist, but I still find it to be very cute regardless. I love the fact that she comes with the birds. The Flesh Fang always gets me for some reason, and it's just a thicker interpretation of Ryza. Can't really go wrong. Now, what can go wrong is that most of the Racing Miku figures are very expensive, and I think that's going to keep me away from this one. But so far, I think this sculpt is spot on. I really like it. From HoloLive, we got an update for Laplace Darkness, and while I haven't educated myself on the streamer just yet, I think the figure's turning out pretty damn good. Lots of purple on this figure, only really broken up by the violet patterns on the bottom of the coat, and then of course the mass of white plastic that makes up her hair. It is extremely voluminous, and it essentially reaches the bottom of the base. I think she's really cute. I like designs like this. Love her giant horns. They seem to be glossy. The cuffs seem to have like a metallic paint job to them, but I can't say for sure. But I think Good Smile Company did a good job here. I honestly thought this was Max Factory, but it's Good Smile. So not sure what scale they're going for, but I hope it's not a Lammy situation where They're flip-flopping too much again. I hope it stays at the 1/7 scale. Rice Shower from Uma Musume, the makeup vampire version. You know, I already like this. You take a horse girl, you put her in a vampire costume. She's got the fangs. She's striking a pose, but she's kind of embarrassed about it, which I think is the best part about this figure, especially because her ears look like they're drooping down a little bit just to sell that expression. And I just like the color scheme, you know, traditional Halloween color palette of purple and orange, a little bit of white and black mixed into that, and then you have a lot of frills because it's a very poofy dress, and her boots look sick too. Like it a lot. Alright, so next up is the Sana Notori Sana Channel version, and this was a figure that was actually on my wish list. I did want this at one point, but this took so long to get painted that I kind of forgot about it, but it's finally here, and I think Max Factory did a phenomenal job. This is, in my opinion, one of the best figures in this gallery. It just has so much detail in it that's a bit of an understatement, right? There is just presents all over the damn figure. There's the trolley with the cake that's like full of like fruit and stuff like that. There's creatures all over the base. I don't know what the hell this thing is, but you get a cute cat. There's the lobster, there's the bunnies all over the design, and she looks adorable too. And you get the huge throne, and you get a bunch of balloons. There's just a lot here, right? I really don't want to know the price tag on this one. If I had to guess, I would say 35,000 yen easily, but it depends, I guess, on the size of it. But there's just too much, right? Like, they gotta sculpt a lot here. They gotta paint it to perfection, as Max Factory typically does. If I watched any of her content, this would probably be back on my wish list, but I'm left in a situation where I probably don't need something like this, despite how lively and how colorful this piece is. I think Max Factory, for as long as they took with this one, really delivered on it, and I'm pretty happy to see the outcome, at least so far. Blue Archive had 3 scale figures at this event, the first one being the Aristendo Maid version, which is a very simple looking figure, but she still looks like a darling to me, so I like it. I really like her pose though, the yes sensei thing that she's doing, and the charm is very fun. I just like that little design to her broom. Next up is the Hoshino Takanashi swimsuit version. This one is being made by Fat Company. Love the inflatable whale, and just in general, the fact that they committed to the beach setting instead of just making it a basic swimsuit figure does deserve some credit. Though at the moment, her mouth looks very strange and not so good, so I hope that gets touched up when she is finally painted. And then Miyuki is giving us a figure of Mari Yoshi, who seems to be a cat girl nun with a gun. Nice. Let's talk about Bochi next. There's actually 2 figures in this section to go over, with the first one being the Hitori scale finally painted. And I gotta say, it looks exactly as I was expecting it to, which is a good thing. Looks just like her, and I like the paint job too. Just the right amount of shading for a simple looking figure. But I think that's the problem, is that there are a lot of figures of Hitori now. Prize figures and scales on the way, but I think the true strength of this one is that it's part of a set. You're going to be able to get all 4 band members with this line of figures, and I think a lot of people are going to want to do that. There's also the fact that you're getting that good small company quality with this figure, and since nothing is too complex looking with this piece, there shouldn't really be any quality control issues. So as long as they keep the price tag around like 17,000 yen, which is what my guess is just because of the guitar bag that she's holding on to, that's got to add a little bit to the price tag. And I'm not sure if there's like felts for the strap. I can't really tell from this image, but it should be affordable nonetheless. And I think that's going to be very important to making sure that these figures pop off. And just like I mentioned, more figures in this line are coming, with the next one seemingly being Ryo. I thought Nijika would get the prototype first, but that's not the case. This figure looks extremely similar to the way Hitori is designed, so I'm just going to expect this for all 4 girls. This really feels like a version 1 to me. If they sell well, they're going to revisit this IP and then probably have them playing their instruments, and I think those will be the more exciting figures, but at the cost of, you know, a bit more money. That's my guess. I hope they do that. I hope somebody does that, because right now it's really just like Hitori, 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 and then Good Small Company saved the day. So we'll see. This was pretty cool to see. Good Small Company is actually making some new scale figures for Gojo and Geto from the newest season of JJK. Now, are these my favorite designs of these characters? Not particularly, though I do like them, but it's more so the fact that they're actually making some male figures for once, because they never do, and they hand it off to other companies like Orange Rouge, so I want to see how these turn out. and I hope they sell well. If they look good and they're not like super crazy expensive, I hope they perform well so that we get more of this. All right. This is kind of a weird one to talk about because this is a Kickstarter figure. It's also part of a bigger project where they're making a music video for Plantopia, but I don't know if you can actually buy this. So I don't know if it makes sense to like hype this up in a gallery when you can no longer buy this, if that makes sense. But you know what this really reminds me of? It's really reminiscent of the feeling I got when I first found out about Black Rock Shooter back in the day. Like back when it only had a music video, I don't think there was any anime, I don't think there was any games at the time. There might have been, but I didn't know about them. But Good Smile Company was making a bunch of really pretty scale figures, and I ended up buying a couple of them, which are still in my collection because I really like them still. And this is kind of the same deal. It's part of a music project. Like, I don't think she's gonna have a proper show or a game. It's just a design. And it's a really pretty one at that. I can't really remember the finer details of this project, but I'm pretty sure she's supposed to be like a flower person, which is pretty apparent with the petals making up the twin tails. I'm pretty sure they're supposed to be a light pink, so that'll be likely very pretty when that's done. Even her cloak is kind of reminiscent of petals, which is a nice touch to the character design. The way she's posed is also pretty cool. She feels very distant and cold, but I don't know if that's the way the character is supposed to be portrayed as. And then of course she has a gigantic axe, which looks sick. Honestly, the composition of this one is really neat to me, but can't buy it. Don't think you could buy it anymore. So I don't know why I would want to talk about it too much, because I'm just gonna disappoint people when they can't pre-order this one. I will say that if this is like a name tag down here, that'll look very tacky, in my opinion, and I hope that's not what that is. But anyway, let's jump over to the next figure. There is two Tsukihime figures, both of Accrued, one the dress code clad in Glacier's version, which you can see right here, and the other which doesn't have a name, but her dress is gigantic, and her hair is much longer and flowing all over the place. Unfortunately, because there's such like a lack of detail in the dress, I'm not sure how I feel about this one, though I do like all the lilies that are decorating the bottom of the base. I think that's very pretty, but not enough detail on this one to really dissect it. Marin Kitagawa from My Dress Up Darling by Max Factory. I was really waiting to see how this one turned out, and I think I'm in the minority here. I don't love it so far. I don't really know why though. I like the expression, I like the pose, I think it's very fun and lively for sure. I think it fits her character, but there's just nothing really like dragging me in, you know? I think I kind of like Aniplexes more at this point, but you gotta hold judgment, right? If it's unpainted, you can't really see the full picture, especially when it comes to the face. Like, I need to know how this one is actually going to look when it's done, because I know the finer details are going to be left in good hands. She's going to have the nice gradient in her hair, her nails are likely going to look very pretty, and they seem to be long, which is important to me, but it's not a great feeling, you know, when you don't pre-order any other figure of the character because you're waiting to see the one that you have the most hopes for, and then it doesn't meet your expectations, whatever those expectations may be. So, I don't know. I'll chill out for now. Not a big deal. I think a lot of people do like this one, and I'm definitely happy for them. But right now I'm leaning more towards like the Aniplex figures of her, which is surprising. I never would have expected to say that. You know when you see a figure and you just know that it's going to be very popular, whether or not it sells well because of the price tag that we don't know? This just seems like it's going to be on a lot of people's wish list. This is Goddess of Victory Nikke's volume, which makes sense, right? This game just knows its audience. It knows what it wants to do, and it does it pretty well. You know, they make very, very attractive, sexy characters for the most part, at least from what I've seen. I don't play the game. I don't really play any gacha game, to be fair, but I can't deny that the character designs are very, very attractive. This is a very thick character. Her outfit is just like made up of spandex, like sheer nylon, something like that. You give her a bra, some hot pants, a really tiny jacket, some high heels, and a couple of belts. You're good. You got a winner right there, you know? It's Max Factory, and they're trying to make her as hot as possible. That's a pretty dangerous combination, if you ask me. But there's also a bunch of other accessories. She's holding onto a microphone. There's the mic stand down there. Her gun's just kind of like chilling on the floor. A couple of magazines. So it feels very well-rounded to me. Also, I really like the fact that she has long nails, just like Marin. Probably stylized a little bit differently, but I'm just a fan of those details. So, yeah, I think this one is going to be a hit for sure, unless they make this like 35,000 yen or something like that, and then some people are probably going to stay away from it. Man, I don't even know how to start talking about this one. This is Mio from Xenoblade 3, and if you're a fan of the channel, you know that this means something to me. This is my most anticipated figure out there. Probably ever, right? This really means a lot to me. I am a huge fan of this game, and honestly, if this wasn't announced yesterday, I would have been pretty upset because the game's anniversary was on the 29th. It better have happened, and I'm glad it did. And truth be told, I think this looks exceptionally good. But I have some questions, and I feel like I need to preface all that by saying that I like this figure before I get into analytical mode and start dissecting some things that I find strange. Now, the biggest thing about this that I find odd is just the pose. Where did this come from? This doesn't really feel like Mio to me. And I'm gonna jump over to here just because the images look nicer to me. But why is she like a little sassy with this pose? She's got her hand on her hip or her butt and she's leaning forward a little bit. I could think of a couple of moments where Mio is sassy in the game, but I don't think it really defines her, right? If you were to ask me to make a pose for Mio, this would not be it. It's very cute, don't get me wrong, and I like what we got, but it's just strange as like the one figure that's going to define her being kind of sassy. I don't get it. I really don't. Apparently Saitom is the one who came up with the illustration that this figure is based on. So, I mean, the man himself did it. Didn't come out of nowhere. So I can't really be upset about that. But yeah, I think a lot of us were expecting the key art. The one with the original announcement was showing off, which wouldn't have been that interesting. There's not that much expression behind that pose, so I like the fact that they changed it up. And honestly, the more I look at these photos, the more I start to appreciate the sculpt. The biggest strength behind this pose, though, is that like unlike all of the other Xenoblade girls, you can very easily put this on any shelf. There is no trouble when finding a place in your room for her because she doesn't take up that much space. She doesn't need extra support stands to keep her up. She is very simple by design, and that's a real strength at this point because I don't even have Nia out right now. I put her away in the box because I just don't have a spot for her in my room right now. I'm a bit disappointed in that sword. I really wish they kept it designed the way it originally was, but I just can't. I just don't have anywhere to put her right now. So yeah, Mio does kind of stand out when you compare her to other Xenoblade figures. She's much less dynamic, but part of that just comes down to her design. She wields moonblades instead of giant swords or ether cannons. Her hair is cut short, so the natural flow of her strands don't really extend far out. Good Small Company should really give us a long hair option, but I don't really expect that. They typically don't do that. For real though, once we get the colors, I think she's gonna look sublime. Her silver hair with the red braid, her bright yellow eyes. I think the moonblades are a mix of 4 or 5 different colors, and I think those are really gonna make the figure pop. There's a lot of gold along the edges of the dress and even the boots, and hell, this figure doesn't even look right at the moment because you can't tell that she's supposed to have leggings on right now. I'm telling you, give this some more time, I think it's gonna look perfect. Also, thank you Saitom for the belly button sculpt. Your work is really appreciated here, but I don't know why you made her perky. I don't like that. Don't do that. Well, that was a lot of words, and I feel like I'm losing my voice at this point, which would be very bad because I know I have a lot more to talk about. But anyway, next up is the Shoko Komi Summer Clothes version by Miyuki. This is a figure we knew was in production, but we didn't know what summer clothes meant, and turns out it's just the summer school uniform, which I think looks good. I can't really think of another figure that has this outfit. She's jumping up in the air, which I wasn't expecting, and it kind of reminds me of the anime's OP, which I also like a lot. Now, unfortunately, as nice as this looks, it's simple, but it's nice. Miyuki has horrible prices, and I'm honestly expecting this to cost about 24,000 yen, because I think one of their newest figures did cost that much. So I have absolutely no hopes for this, but looks pretty. I think they did a good job, but it's definitely not going to be worth that price if that's what they put it at. This is a really pretty figure. Solar Rain is making a new Reimu scale, the Shrine Maiden of Paradise version. You know I like Toho, you know I like Reimu. Not sure if I'm going to be picking this one up because I have one in my collection and another on the way. Not sure how many I need of her, but this is a great showing from the company. The only thing I'm not loving about this is that I remember the original illustration having some more like street signs incorporated into it, which isn't anywhere to be found on this figure, but instead we get a clear view of the gates and the lantern kind of like submerged in the ocean, which looks fantastic. I really like their approach on the base here. As far as her outfit goes, it feels pretty traditional. They only added like a little bit here and there, like the pattern along her skirt. There's some ropes and tassels, which I think is a good idea. And sometimes Reimu has very big ribbons, and this is one of those cases, and I usually like that, especially when they're very frilly like this. I love her hair sculpt here. It looks very windy wherever she is. The fox mask is very cool, and there's a lot of charms all over Reimu, like on the base itself, on her outfit, tied around the rope over here at her skirt. It looks sick. This is a sick design. I want to see how this one turns out. I'm not going to commit to it because I have enough Reimu at the moment, but this is one to keep your eye out on. And while this next one isn't in the gallery, I might as well mention very quickly that we're getting this Cherno in a tan. Now, this is a figure that went up for pre-order like last week. I didn't get a chance to talk about it yet because of OneFest, and I'm probably going to save my opinions for it in that video, but I figured I would just mention this now in case I forgot. They changed a little bit of the colors, like not only on her skin tone, but also chocolate. Instead of vanilla, the Pocky sticks, or whatever these are supposed to be, are a different flavor. She has vines behind her instead of the crystal ice, which I don't like as much. I like the ice, but I think it makes sense for her to be in a tan on this figure. But yeah, I'll leave it to that. Let's move on. Neko Yome is putting out a Race Queen figure for Cinnamon. This is from Nekopara, and there's a couple of figures in this specific line, but some are apparently better than others from what I've gathered. So we'll have to wait and see how Cinnamon here turns out. But the last announcements in this section at the very least are a couple of Arms Notes girls. We have Kohai-chan and Bucho-chan. Now, I don't get the point of these because Amakuni has already made sculpts of both of these girls, and honestly I think they did both of them better. You can't really beat Amakuni when it comes to sculpting the body of female characters. That's like the one thing they want to make sure they do right at all times, at least for the most part, right? So I just don't see why they're making these all of a sudden. It's not that they look bad, I just think there's something superior on the market. Though I do like the fact that they come with a bit more of an involved base, kind of putting you in the setting of a pool, right? That's kind of cool. And they're sort of looking at each other if you pair them correctly, like side by side, so that's kind of cute. But, I don't know. They're not really like super interesting to me, but yeah, I think that's going to do it for this section. As far as Figma goes, there's about 12 figures in this section, so I'm going to go through this one very quickly if you don't mind. First up is the Racing Miku 2023 version, which we saw earlier today, but this time it's actually painted. And I love the fact that they made sure her thighs were just as thick on this Figma as they were on the scale figure. Nice Nature from Uma Musume Pretty Derby got a painted prototype for her Figma, and it's looking very cute. From Blue Archive, we got an announcement for Kazusa Kyoyama, who is a character I've never seen before, but I like her look quite a bit. I'm hoping she gets more figures in the future. Hell's Paradise showed off a Figma for Gabimaru with a pretty cool flame effect to boot, and if you get a figure of Gabimaru, a Yamada figure is soon to follow, so there is an announcement for her as well. Chisato as well as Takina were both painted, and I gotta say, they did a great job with their face sculpts. They look exactly like the anime to me, and I'm pretty impressed. From Bunny Suit Planning, we're getting a Figma for Veronica Sweetheart. Her Buster Sword is sick, but her pencil legs, not so much in my opinion, but this like futuristic armor design is still pretty cool. Tsukihime showed off their Figma for Ciel. You're not getting a gigantic sword with this one, assumingly, but you are getting a rather large gun in its place. Looks pretty good. Isaac Clarke from Dead Space is a pretty cool surprise. You would expect to see something like this at Anime Expo and not OneFest, but it's nice to see nonetheless. He looks very bulky, which reminds me of the Doom Guy Figma, which had a really cool design, but I didn't end up buying it because I saw some people complaining about it, unfortunately. But I hope this guy has a better fate because he's got a sick design, and while I haven't played Dead Space yet, I will eventually, and I've always liked the look of Isaac. False Lander showed off their Samurai Figma, which seems to be incorporating a soft material to make up the bottom portion of her outfit, just to help alleviate some of that restrictiveness when it comes to the articulation. It's a good idea, as long as it doesn't hurt the visual appeal of the Figma. And last up is quite a big one. Max Factory announced a Figma for Skull Knight from Berserk, complete with his horse. this has to cost like 30,000 yen, probably 40,000 yen. There is a lot of plastic with this Figma, and if it's all articulated, it's gonna be really pricey, but I think most of the Berserk Figma, outside of like Guts and Griffith, they usually do cost a lot of money because their designs are very complex, but it's super sick to see. I don't think I'm willing to spend that much, but anybody who's a fan of Berserk surely likes looking at this. This looks sick as hell. Alright, let's talk about the pop-up parades now. There's about 20 or so in this section, and we're going to start off with the Hatsune Miku Future Eve version. Now, this is a design we've seen in figure form before. Design Coco has done it in the past, and I believe even Good Smile has made a Nendoroid of this Miku design. The real giveaway here, without it even being painted, is the fact that she has these like little accessories by her waist, and the microphone has the cutesy star design to it. But unfortunately, this just doesn't seem like a good fit for the pop-up parade line. Now, I do appreciate that it's a large pop-up, but this horizontal hair sculpt is a little too ambitious feeling, in my opinion, for something like a pop-up parade for figures that are made of cheaper materials, because they have to be. That's how they keep the prices down. And they're showing you right off the bat that you need the extra support stands, because the hair is absolutely going to droop over time. But who's to say that's enough? Who's to say that parts of the figure that aren't necessarily right next to the support stands aren't going to droop as well? I just feel like this is going to have problems in the future. As cute as she looks, I love the stars in her eyes. I think this would be great if Good Smile themselves just made like a proper scale figure of it. It just feels like a bit of a gamble, but thankfully it's not an expensive one, so hopefully things work out for this figure. Look, I'm all for the Bridget figures that are coming out lately, at least for the most part, but did we really need a color variant so soon? I'm pretty sure the original pop-up parade isn't out yet, but I will say this just looks better, in my opinion, and I wasn't sure why at first, but it turns out they changed her face a little bit. She's winking here, instead of just giving like a generic smile on the other pop-up parade. But there was just something about the face on the original that I really didn't like, and when I look at the pop-up parade, I don't feel that way. I think this looks more like Bridget does in the game, so I think this is just the better figure overall. I think the color palette's pretty nice on this one. I like the fact that she has leggings now. The black makes her look like a nun, kinda, and the more saturated blonde hair looks good. For whatever reason, Hololive gets the golden treatment when it comes to pop-up parades, and I don't think Botan is any different. She looks fantastic for what is essentially a $50 figure. I do wish she would get scales in the future at some point, but we'll have to wait and see if that ever happens. I feel like Max Factory will do that at some point. But you can't knock this. You know, if they're going to cost you a little bit more than the average pop-up parade, then you would hope that the quality goes up with it, and it seems like they do. So, solid. Definitely didn't see these coming. They're making extra large size variants for Rei and Asuka's pop-up parades. And while I think Rei just looks like a bigger version of that original figure, which is a good thing, I don't know what happened to Asuka. She looks terrible. Why is her hair brown? And why does her face look like that? I don't really get why this figure exists at this point. If they're gonna make it look like this, and yeah, it's a little harsh, but the original pop-up parade didn't have these issues, so what happened here? I really hope they touch this one up a little bit, and by a little bit I mean a lot of bit, because something clearly went wrong here. But I don't see this one selling too well if they don't do anything about it, but I think the Rei has a better fate because she looks fine. Hell's Paradise is back. They finally painted the Gabimaru. Looks pretty good. There's also the pop-up parade for Ai from Oshinoko, who I feel like has a very round and slightly bigger head than she should. Maybe that's just me though, but I feel like so far, not my favorite pop-up parade of the day. Still kind of cute though. They painted Alucard from Hellsing, and I think they did a pretty good job at it. The shading on the coat is nice and dark, as you would expect for a character like this, and I feel like his face is pretty damn accurate, but I wish we saw some up-close shots of it so I can make a better assessment of it. Diane from the Seven Deadly Sins got her pop-up parade painted, and I think it's looking very cute. Now this is an extra large size because the character is just canonically gigantic, but it also helps you scale the other figures in the line with her, such as Merlin, as well as Gother. So I really like that aspect of this specific line, because they're also doing it with some other characters. I think Escanor might be a large, but he's not at this event, so I'll just put an image on the screen right now if that is the case. Man, I am so happy that Good Smile Company is actually giving us an Ame figure. It just felt like no one was going to. Everybody wanted to make a K-Angel figure, but Good Smile Company listened, and I really thank them for it. Now, I do hope at some point she gets a Nendoroid, because the K-Angel Nendoroid is actually peak, but this is adorable, and I'm still really pumped that we're getting this. Mash Burn Dead got his pop-up parade painted. I think it looks very faithful. There was also some Overlord pop-up parades. We're getting one for Shaltir as well as one for Albedo, or Alpha. I don't know why she's called that, because I've only seen a couple episodes of Overlord, but this is the dress version, and those are very big. Now, there's also some pop-up parades for No Game No Life. These are the Shiro and Shuvi concert versions. I'm not exactly sure what that entails, but we'll find out eventually. And then we're also getting Rihito Sajo and Hikaru Kusukabe from Dokusei. And I forgot about all this. This was a movie from like 2016. I honestly don't even remember if I watched it or not, but I appreciate the callback. But we also had one extra pop-up parade announcement that wasn't on the gallery for some reason. There are 4 pop-up parades for Blue Archive. We're getting pop-up parades for Yuka Hayase, Eris Tendo, Hifumi Ajitani, and Aruriku Hachima, the mischievous straight versions, which sounds like an idol group. I think that's what this is, but correct me if I'm wrong. Cute designs though. I like them quite a bit. I think that's gonna do it though for the pop-up parades from Wonhobby. So let's jump to the next section. Alright, so we're going to be jumping over to Freeing in just a second, but I saw this figure and I figured why not throw it into this video. Levi from Pony Canyon was shown off fully painted and should probably be going up for pre-order pretty soon. Now, there is a ton of Levi figures on the market right now, and I can't say for sure if this is the best one. I definitely lean more towards the action-y and dynamic figures for Shingeki, and this would fit the bill. Probably my favorite Levi is the one where he's like really bloody from a battle that Kotobukiya made. I'll put it on screen right now. I think that's just like a step above the rest for me, but this one's pretty good too, you know? The shading on the cape looks amazing. I love the wind effects on the bottom just to make it look like he's moving really quickly. His face looks solid. Can't say for sure if it's the best face I've ever seen on a Levi figure, but more photos will tell in the future. Apparently though, this might be a 1/6 scale, which would make this a pretty big Levi figure. I don't know if he has other 1/6 scales, but since it's Pony Canyon, this is going to cost a ton of money unless we all get extremely lucky. So I don't really know if many people are going to be picking this one up, even though I do think they did a great job with the sculpt. Alright, so I'm going to do the non-prototype announcements first, because as you can see, there's some pretty good ones here. For instance, Satsuki and Mako from Kill la Kill are both getting bunny figures out of nowhere. This is kind of like the Toradora situation, where this probably should have happened a long time ago, but this is just great. I'm sure a ton of people are going to be picking up both of these figures, and you can't say for sure if these are going to be the poses. I don't mind them. I think these are decent poses for the characters, but I would be a little bummed out if they didn't change the colors. I feel like they could get a little bit more creative in that aspect, but I'm not going to complain. This is great. Also, I'm just going to be honest, I genuinely thought that Kirino and Ruri both had bunny figures from Oraimo. It just felt like that had to be the case. Like, how did this not happen already? But out of nowhere, we're getting new figures for both of the characters. You know, people give Freeing a lot of crap, myself included, but at least they do make things people want. We got a couple of swimsuit figures from Freeing. There was the Camellia Ocean Dancer from Girls Frontline, as well as 2 To Love Ru Darkness figures of Momo and Yami. I don't know why they're doing this, where they're like not showing us what the figure looks like. I mean, if they have the idea of what they want to go for, you could at least show us the prototype image, or even something like drawn, right? There was announcements for 2 Overlord bunnies. We're getting Norberyl as well as Shaltir, and I do kind of want to see how Shaltir turns out, because I like her quite a bit. And then there was also some announcements for Reincarnated as a Slime, 2 Yukata figures for Shion, as well as Shuna. But now let's jump into those prototypes. Okay, so Freeing created a shit show with this figure of Kana in a bunny suit. I'm pretty sure the comment section is closed over on MFC on this figure's page because people could not stop arguing with each other. It's kind of funny in that regard, but there's reasons for that, I suppose. When Freeing takes a character like this and makes a figure for them, usually they put them in like a cutesy dress, right? Just to avoid any issues, but they didn't do that with Kana. And if I were to pick a side, I guess I would prefer to see her in the dress just because I feel like it would look cuter, but this is Dragon Maid. Unless you're blocking out like 75% of the show, This doesn't feel out of place to me. This feels kind of accurate, in fact, but I don't think people really want that to be the case, but that's the show. That's the manga. Like, that's just kind of how it is. I don't really want to comment too much more on this, but just be aware that Kana is getting a bunny girl figure. Don't like that she's in white. I feel like that's boring. I think pink would have been cuter, but whatever. A figure without controversy, though, they're making Lukoa also into a bunny girl. And I don't know if I'm clinically online too much. I'm looking at too much fan art, if you know what I mean, but she looks a little small, mostly at the hips. Might be wrong on that, but I kind of wish she was a little bit thicker. I don't know. I'm not going to probably be picking this up, but I do like it. I think her face is great. I like her pose a lot, how she's forming the heart, and the gradient in her hair seems well done. So good stuff all around. New Miku bunny girl, I like this one a lot. This outfit is great. The pattern by her waist, the asymmetrical sleeves. I like that she's playing with her twin tails a little bit. The expression's good. Hope it doesn't cost too much, but her hair will come at a premium surely, but hopefully not too much more. Ruby Rose is getting a freeing figure. I think the base looks great on this one. I love the red effect pieces, but there's a bit of stiffness to her pose, and I really don't love her expression. It feels very bland to me, so I hope they tune this one up a little bit. Slime is getting 2 bunny girls. We have Shuna as well as Murin. I feel like I have not seen many figures of Murin, so that's pretty cool. And Shuna looks very cute. I like her bunny figure quite a bit, actually. The horns and the bunny ears, I like that. Next up, this one's probably going to cost a fortune. Girls Frontline QBZ 97 Gretel the Witch. And you can tell she's a witch because she's got eyeballs under her dress. I like the flowers running through her hair. The wardrobe malfunction is fun. She's got a little demon tail, but I think this is a costume, but it doesn't really matter in terms of the figure. And then her gun is also just chilling here, which is going to jack up the price. I feel like you don't need the gun at that point since it's not really interacting with the figure in any way. I guess it's kind of tangled up in her hair a little bit, but I don't know. I feel like you might as well just not have that, but I'm speaking as somebody who doesn't play Girls Frontline, so maybe you want it. I don't know. And then there was the TKB 408 Dance of Cinnabar. I kind of like her design, but I don't like her face. I really like the way her hair is done up. I think the outfit looks pretty good. I can't see a lot of it, but it looks like there's damage to it like a lot of these Girls Frontline figures have. You can see like the tights are ripped up, the sleeves a little bit, the gun's chilling in the back again because you gotta have the gun. I feel like it's such a big size you don't need it, but I don't know. Am I weird for complaining about that? I feel like it's just gonna jack up the price, and it could be more affordable if you didn't have the gun in the back that's not interacting with the character in any way, but Girls Frontline fans know what they want, and I don't. We got a couple of 1/4 scale Azur Lane beauties. This is the Chitose Summer Shine version in a pretty revealing bikini, doing something with the sash around her arms. I'm not exactly sure, but she's certainly like emphasizing her butt, which is fine by me. And then we also have the Drake, the Golden Hinds Respites, which is a little bit more basic to me. I'm not really feeling any special way about this one, but it's probably gonna look fine. Manchester Midnight Devil in White from Azur Lane. This is very different from most Azur Lane figures. It's like a sexy nurse vampire devil girl. I can't tell how much I like this though without the paint, but neat. Goddess of Victory Nikkei is also getting 1/4 scales. Here we have Marion, who looks pretty good, but something tells me Anice's 1/4 scale is gonna be a little bit more popular. Those are very big booba, and I think big booba means big sales. They're not even putting these characters in like different outfits and costumes. I don't know if this game has stuff like that because I haven't played it, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't think you need to when the characters look like this. So big sales are on the way for freeing in my opinion. And then the last figure is actually Nezuko. We've seen Mitsuri before, nothing has changed in regards to this prototype, but now Nezuko is colored in her like more demonic form. I do think it looks good. I like the expression on this one. I think they did a good job with the flame effects too. I do kind of wish the flames were a brighter pink. I feel like that would be a bit more accurate, or maybe like a mix of the dark red and the pink, right? But the lighting here is clearly suboptimal. It's not like the best way to view this figure, so I'll cut it some slack for now. Expecting this to be pretty pricey though, but definitely one of the better figures I've seen from them from the Demon Slayer line. I kind of like this one so far. But that's going to do it for freeing, so let's jump over to the next section. And now it's time to talk about the Nendoroids. We have a lot to go through, so buckle up. We're going to go through some of these pretty quickly, but hopefully you find something you like. Now, starting us off is the Hatsune Miku Happy 16th birthday version, which you might recall from the very beginning of the video. Now, it's a Nendoroid, and now it looks very cute. But of course, there is a lack of detail in those wings, which is really to be expected. I don't really like this as a concept for a Nendoroid for that reason, but depending on the faceplates, depending on the accessories, if she even comes with any, might make this still worth picking up. But more excitingly for me, they're actually revisiting the Vampire Miku. I love this design for her, and while I think the pop-up parade actually did turn out pretty good, I like that we're getting another take on this design. My one problem with that pop-up parade will be on the Nendoroid as well. There's just no way they're going to commit to all these piercings because it's a little tiny Nendoroid ear. They just can't do that, so I'm not going to worry about that. But if the Nendoroid is good, then I'll be happy. Hololive got 3 Nendoroid updates, all unpainted prototypes. We're getting Roboko-san, Tokoyami Towa, as well as Momosuzu Nene, all looking very cute. Blue Archive was in a similar situation. They had 4 updates for the series. Yuka Hayase was shown off fully painted and looks pretty good if you ask me. There was also an unpainted prototype for Hifumi Ajitani as well as Arona. I've always liked Arona, she is adorable. They also announced that Aruriku Hashima was going to be getting a Nendoroid, and while I do feel like her design fits scales or pop-up parades a little bit better, I'm still happy to see this because I do like her character design quite a bit. Bocchi the Rock got some love, as you would imagine, right? We had the painted prototype for Nijika shown off, and I gotta say, this looks perfect. I don't know what it is, but I feel like I'm liking her more and more as the days go by, and it's not like I've rewatched the show or anything, but there's something so infectious about how cute she is. It might be all the artwork I'm seeing on Twitter. I'm not calling it X, fuck you, but I really like this, and it kind of makes me feel like I might be picking up her scale when it eventually gets shown off, but this looks great. I hope we can play around with her Dorito hair, but it's right on the seam line where you separate the hair pieces, so you might not have any like posability with that thing, but we'll see. We also got the painted prototype for Ikuyo, who looks pretty good, but not as good if you ask me. There's something very flat about the way they presented this image of her. Her hair looks like it's one singular shade of red, and her eyes just aren't as cute. So, not to be a hater or anything, I just don't feel like it turned out as nice. But we're not done yet because we also got an unpainted prototype for Kikuri. I hope she comes with some beer, I hope she comes with some very silly faceplates, and I'm kind of surprised that Ryo was not shown off next. But whatever the case, we're getting more Bocchi, and that's fine by me. On top of this, though, we're also getting some more faceplates. Now, at a glance, this looks like it would only be for Hitori, but I feel like because they're saying Bocchi selection, that it's going to be for all of the characters, or at least like a bunch of them, right? I'm sure that Hitori will get most of the faceplates, but I wouldn't be surprised if they give a bonus face to other characters in the series. A couple of more fully painted prototypes for you. We had the Aniyamana Nendoroid from The Dangers in My Heart. There was Keisan from Vishoujo fully shown off, looking pretty good. I'm happy how this one's turning out. And then we also had Amamiya Nazuna from Vishoujo, who kind of reminds me of a character from the Atelier series, but I don't know if that's where the inspiration actually comes from. Top tier Nendoroid up next, we got Bobobo, and wouldn't you know it, you could already just pre-order this guy if you like him. Now, I'm not here to really give a full review on what I think of this Nendoroid, but I do like it quite a bit. I think the faceplates are very expressive, and while there's not that many accessories, the nose hair is a must-have, and I honestly love the fact that he just comes with pickles. I find that very funny considering he's like only in episode 1. He might have some more like importance in the manga though. But this is a very goofy sculpt. His shoulders are just giant spheres, and there's a lot of seam lines in his hair, but there's a reason for that, and it's because you could put the top half of the other Nendoroids into his afro. They're specifically using Yami here to reference the manga, which I think is such great marketing. They really know how to pull fans of these series in, and honestly, I think it's working on me. But I don't have a Yami Nendoroid either, so maybe I would have to get him as well. Though he was re-released, maybe they were planning this all along. That's pretty smart, if you ask me. Shinigami from Rain Code is fully painted. I feel like we only just got the announcement for this, so this was a very quick turnaround. I think the sculpt's great. I really like the colors. Don't love her weird, wriggly mouth though. I guess that's just how the character looks, but since I haven't played the game yet, it just looks strange to me. But I'm sure this is overall a win for the Raincoat fam. Next up is Ruby from Oshinoko. Pretty standard stuff. Very surprised that I just didn't have a Nendoroid announced. I sort of get it, but I also sort of don't, because there's so many figures of this character anyway that you think Good Smile Company would capitalize, but they're only now doing that. But there's no Kana update, so count me out. Jujutsu Kaisen had a couple of updates. They showed off the prototype for Chozo as well as Toji. They announced a new figure for Shoko, the high school version specifically, and then we're getting a bunch of new faceplates. These are for Yuji, Megumi, Nobara, and of course, Gojo. I feel like Gojo does not need more faceplates at this point, but I also feel like they know that people are going to buy this whole set just for him, so it makes sense. Mitsuri from Demon Slayer is now fully painted. She looks cute, but I feel like something's off, very slightly, and I can't tell what it is. We also have the Shinobu Nendoroid doll. This looks exceptionally good to me, and I'm not exactly sure why, but this is like the best doll I've seen in this line so far. Two updates for Rose and Maiden. We had the painted prototype for Kiriki Sho. I love this wavy, erratic hair sculpt. Looks really nice, actually. And then they announced a new Kanaria Nendoroid, so look forward to that. From World Dye Star, we're getting Nendoroid Kokona Atori. I don't know who this is, but I definitely like their colors. Chisato and Takina are not only getting new Nendoroids for their cafe uniforms, but they're also getting Nendoroid dolls, which at this point is not surprising. These characters are very popular. Fucking Bob from the Minions is painted now. He looks absolutely perfect. Had no idea this character had heterochromia until this Nendoroid, so I guess I just learned something new today. We got the unpainted prototype for Nendoroid Eve. This is one of those characters that I'm definitely aware of, but I haven't gotten around to playing the game yet. It's got a bit of a legacy to it. Glad it's more accessible now, and I'm definitely going to get around to playing it eventually. But I like that they're doing this. Suzume and Sota were shown off fully painted. I actually like this movie quite a bit. Definitely more than Weathering with You, but probably not super interested in picking them up, but they do look good. Ginkgo from Mushishi is getting a Nendoroid. That's pretty awesome. I don't remember hearing about this before. I hope this means we're going to get more figures of him. But yeah, that's pretty great. Rin and Yukio from Blue Exorcist were shown off. I was going to say that these are better late than never, but I totally forgot that there was a Season 2 in like 2017. And I feel like a Season 3 is coming, but I'm not exactly sure. I guess fill me in if that's the case. There was 3 updates for My Hero Academia. We had Nendoroid Endeavor's unpainted prototype. I think it looks great so far. There was an announcement for Shota, as well as an announcement for Lady Nagant. I don't know who this is. I've fallen off completely, but she looks cool. And I guess she has to be pretty important to be getting a Nendoroid. Holo from Spice and Wolf's Nendoroid doll was shown off, and just like Shinobu, I think this looks great. Maybe the Nendoroid doll line is stepping it up, or maybe I'm just finally paying attention to it, but this is very cute. From Aria, we're getting Akari as well as Alice. Both of these Nendoroids were announced like 5 years ago, so it's great that they're finally happening, but holy shit, that took a long time. Vamirio from Helk. I think this series like just got an anime adaptation. It might be airing right now, actually. A friend of mine keeps telling me to read it. Maybe I'll watch it instead, but apparently it's good. So maybe I'll like this character when I read it or watch it. Nendoroid doll Joker is not working as well for me as Holo or Shinobu did. I think it's just like the proportions of the knife and the mask. They look gigantic on him, so it's a bit goofier in comparison, but I can see why people would like this, so I'm not going to knock it. Dorothy Hayes from Valhalla. This shit's so cute, and I love how vibrant the colors are. But I gotta say, I was very surprised that Jill Stingray from Valhalla was pretty hard to find on the aftermarket. I didn't pre-order it. I don't typically pre-order Nendoroids anymore, but I was struggling a little bit to find her for the right price, and the only place I was able to find her at was Otaku Mode. I think they only have like 4 left, and then everybody else was sold out. So if you like Jill, you should go get her while you can. And that might also happen to Dorothy, because I guess Valhalla is way more popular than I thought. Orange Rouge had a bunch of Nendoroids at this event of characters that I'm not very familiar with, so let me know if you guys mind me just flashing these images on screen with their names, because I might do this in the future. Might as well test the waters now and see how it goes over though. Alexander from Elden Ring, another top tier Nendoroid, but I have very weird taste and I just love this game so much. It looks perfect though, you know? I wasn't the biggest fan of Max Factory's Siegmeyer, but this feels like it's just coming out so much better, and I probably will be buying this. Not exactly sure what he's going to come with. I could think of one thing that would be very spoilery, but maybe he just won't come with anything. I don't really care though, I would still buy it because I want a figure of the guy. Ronnie is also looking super cute as well as a Nendoroid. I'm probably going to be picking this one up as long as the price tag isn't too bad. And then we had the Vagabond, who I got no love for. Just not really a cool armor set, if you ask me. It's the starting class, or one of them, and I just don't really care. I don't need everything from Elden Ring, and I feel like this one's just not needed in my collection. Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon is so cute. I love his big green puppy dog eyes. I think this came out honestly better than I was expecting. Wow, we're getting Hisoka from Hunter x Hunter. I feel like I have not seen a figure of him in a very long time. It's nice that Good Small Company is starting to make some more Hunter x Hunter figures in general. There's a lot of like new Gon and Killua figures lately. I think there's also pop-up parades in the works. Maybe they're already like up for pre-order, but I'm liking this new age where we're finally getting some new Hunter x Hunter merch. Nikkei had to get some Nendoroids. Of course, we're getting Nendoroids for Rappy as well as Anise. I think these are two pretty good choices, especially Rappy. I feel like I see her all the time. Dark Gatherings Yayoi Hazuki. This is a crazy character design, just legit skulls in the eyes for pupils. I like that though. And the bunny is also pretty cute. Also blush stickers. I'm a sucker for some blush stickers. No idea who this is, but I'm at least interested. Chiaki from Danganronpa. This looks great, but I feel like the colors are a little desaturated, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but I feel like that won't really be the case when this goes up for pre-order. But right now I'm a little hesitant on that, but overall it's still very cute. From My Happy Marriage, we're getting Nendoroids for Kyoka and Mio. I think this is the show that's always showing up on Netflix, but I never click it. But if you like it, Nendoroids are coming. Personally, if you ask me, I think these three are some of the best Nendo announcements we've had in a while. This isn't technically new. We knew about this before, but Yuko, Mio, and Mai are all getting Nendoroids, and they finally have shown off their prototypes. I think they all look great. Love them a lot. You could probably guess which character is my favorite from this trio, and it has nothing to do with the name. That's just a coincidence, but I really am excited to see how these three turn out. Reign of 7 Spellblades, and now Hibiya is getting a Nendoroid. They showed off her prototype. I like her design. She looks pretty cute. And then there was Komichi Akebi from Akebi's sailor uniform. Is this the first time we're getting a proper Kobayashi figure? I mean, it's not a scale or anything, but I feel like she has maybe one other figure that's not good. So that's pretty cool that they're making Kobayashi, but they're also making Elma, who definitely also doesn't have much merch out there. And I'm not even really sure like which one is more exciting for people out there, but it's just a win all around, I suppose. That makes what, like 5 or 6 Kobayashi Nendoroids at this point? That's a pretty good spread, like all of a sudden within the last year or so. And of course there was a bunch of accessories as well, mostly or if not all for Nendoroid dolls. We had some Kigurumi pajamas for Elmo and Cookie Monster, which is such a great use of the license in my opinion. Very cute, I gotta say. There was a couple of Chinese dresses to pick from for your dolls. There is a new type of body size, I think that's what this is saying, like a kid size, in different types of skin complexion. We had pants in various sizes and colors and whatnot. We had 2 sets of maid outfits, one longer, one slightly shorter, and that's it. I think that's it for the accessories. But there are a couple more announcements, so let's get to those. Everything else from here on out is just straight announcements, so let's run through these. We got the Nendoroid doll for Saber. She's got to get a doll at some point, so I'm not surprised by that. We have a Nendoroid for Archer Balban? Sith? I think that's how you say her name. Apologies if that's incorrect, but love the design of her, just not really familiar with her. A new Nendoroid for Yohane. I believe this is from the newest like spin-off anime of Love Live Sunshine. I haven't seen anything about it, but I'm pretty sure that's what this is. Spear Hero from Shield Hero Season 3 is getting a Nendoroid. We have Wiz from Konosuba getting a Nendoroid. That feels like it should have happened way sooner, but better late than never. There is the Child of the Lights. No idea. Looks very unique though. We have Richter Belmont from Castlevania Nocturne. I really wish this was based off of Rondo of Blood, because that's one of my favorite like top 10 games of all time, but I understand why they're going with this. 808 from Hi-Fi Rush, and not the main character. I think his name is Chai. I haven't played it yet. That's surprising. It's a cute cat though, cute robot cat. Can't say I'm mad about that, but I am surprised by that. Yume Minami from Gridman Universe. She looks a little weird without the coat, I'm not gonna lie, but she's cute, so that's cool. Rika from Gridman is getting a doll. Who doesn't love Rika? 02 is getting a doll. Surprised that took as long as it did. Wow, they're making a Mononoke Nendoroid of the medicine seller. I guess he didn't have a name, right? That's just what they call him. That's awesome. Cool ass announcement. Amakuni Saruno from Mr. Full Swing is getting a Nendoroid. We have Chise from Paradox Live. We are definitely in the Orange Rouge section. Harumi is also getting a Nendoroid from Paradox Live. Dokusei returns with Nendoroids for Rihito Sajo and Hikaru Kusukabe. Yuno from Mirai Nikki is getting a Nendoroid, which makes that her second figure in recent times. The fans are certainly eating lately. Little worried about Good Smile Art Shanghai though. Story of Seasons Friends of Mineral Town's Claire is getting a Nendoroid. I really wish this was based off of the old art style, which I find much more endearing and charming, but you take what you can get if you're a fan of old Harvest Moon. Takumi Usui from Maid-sama is getting an Nendoroid, and then I think the last one is Classmate Chow from Classmate Chow, and I think that's gonna do it. There were some other announcements that I didn't get a chance to talk about today, just because I need to cut it off at some point. I can't talk about literally everything, like model kits for instance. I typically don't talk about model kits on this channel. But there was some cool stuff if you want to take a look for yourself. They're making some Rays, they're making some Mikus. I love the fact that Berserk is getting into model kits. I've never heard of Plamatia before. That might just be Max Factory's new brand of model kits, but I'm not exactly sure what that is. Also, Pochita is getting a little model kit, though I feel like just buy a figure of the character unless you're really into model kits. There was also this Others tab, which just features like miscellaneous announcements. If you want to check this out, I'll link it in the description. But for instance, they had the Q-Set Plus figures for Persona 3, 4, and 5. Not really the biggest fan of this art style, and I'm not sure what a Q-Set Plus even is. And they also had some Power and Denji Hello Good Smile figures, which are very cute. Wouldn't mind picking these up myself, but we'll see if I do. But that's going to do it for today's video. We are finally done talking about Wonhobby. Next time, in a couple of days at most, hopefully, we're going to be covering OneFest and the Ami Ami Hobby Camp. Should be a lot of scale figures, so I hope you're looking forward to it. But that's going to do it for me today. Thank you for watching. If you want to support the channel, subscribe, like, it really does help. And I guess just tune into the next video if you can. Regardless, I'll catch you guys later though. See ya.